The crystalline throne hung in the darkness of space like a great jewel, its surface catching light from the distant sun. Inside this ship, everything moved with perfect order. The Vareth were not like other species. They did not think as individuals. Billions of them shared one mind, one consciousness, one purpose. For 10,000 years, they had ruled 3 star systems. For 10,000 years, they had never failed Dot until now. Queen Sarathi lay in the medical chamber at the heart of the ship. Her body was still beautiful, covered in the silver patterns that marked her as the center of the Vareth consciousness. But something was breaking inside her. The neural network that connected her to every other Vareth mind was beginning to fail. Disease moved through her consciousness like poison through water. A plague that came once every 1,000 years. A plague with no cure. The Vareth healers worked without stopping. They used their best technology. They tried every treatment they knew. Nothing worked. The queen grew weaker each day. And as the queen weakened, the entire Vareth people felt it. Billions of minds connected to hers, and they all felt her dying. The council gathered in the chamber just outside where the queen lay. They did not speak with words. They did not need to. They were connected to each other and to all Vareth minds. They shared thoughts directly, understanding passing between them like electricity. The message was clear. Their queen was ending. Soon the Vareth would need a new center of consciousness. The old order was ending. High Advisor Kesh came to the medical chamber alone. His body was thin and tall, his skin marked with patterns that showed his rank. He looked at the queen and felt what all Vareth felt through the connection. Her fear, her pain, her understanding that she could not survive this. The Vareth did not fear death the way other species did. Death was simply the end of one consciousness joining with the larger consciousness. But losing a queen was different. A queen was the center point. Losing her meant losing 1,000 years of memory and experience. Kesh sent a message through the connection. The council agreed. There was nothing more they could do. It was time to accept what was coming. But then something strange happened. A ship appeared on their sensors. A small ship. A human ship. The humans had come to this region of space only recently. The Vareth had watched them with interest. These creatures were strange. They thought as individuals. Each human had its own mind, its own desires, its own thoughts. The Vareth could not understand how they did not go mad from it. How could billions of separate minds exist in one species without total chaos? Yet the humans did it. They survived. They even built ships and traveled between the stars. The Vareth had made contact with the humans through formal channels. The humans had responded with confusion and questions. The Vareth did not lie or deceive. They did not need to. They simply existed and shared their thoughts. The humans found them strange. The humans found everything about the Vareth strange Dot. Now the human ship requested permission to come aboard. They said they wanted to help. They said they had heard about the Queen's illness. They wanted to offer their medical knowledge. The council discussed this through the connection. What could humans possibly know about Vareth biology? What could a species that thought as individuals possibly offer to a hive mind? It was almost insulting. But they were desperate. Desperate enough to try anything. They gave the humans permission. Commander Harrison led the team that entered the medical section. He was a tall man with dark hair and serious eyes. He had been chosen to lead first contact with the Vareth because he did not panic easily. Nothing the Vareth had shown him so far had shaken him. Now he walked into a chamber filled with technology he did not fully understand. He walked toward a dying alien Queen Dot. With him was Dr. Lisa Park. She was the best human medical doctor they had. She had studied alien biology for years. She understood how different species worked. She understood that biology changed across the galaxy. Every creature was unique. She looked at the Queen, and her equipment immediately began taking readings. She saw data that confused her. The Queen's neural patterns were unlike anything human medicine had ever studied. But she saw something else too. She saw patterns. She saw structure. She saw something that, with the right knowledge, might be treatable. She looked at Commander Harrison. He nodded slightly. He understood. There might be hope. Lisa spent the next hours asking questions to the Verith healers. She studied the Queen's condition. She ran her medical equipment over and over. And slowly, an idea began to form in her mind. An idea so dangerous, so crazy, that she almost did not say it out loud. But she did. She told the Council and Harrison and the Queen herself through the medical connection. The Queen's condition was not something Verith biology could fix. But human genetics were different. The human body had defense systems that the Verith did not have. Human genetics had evolved on a harsh world filled with danger. Humans have become strong at fighting disease. If they could create a bridge between human genetics and Verith neural structure, if they could use human healing abilities to support the Queen's failing network, she might survive. But there was a problem. A big problem. Someone would have to go into the neural fusion with the Queen. Someone would have to open their mind to her mind. Someone would have to let a being connected to billions of other minds inside their consciousness. That person would have to survive something no human had ever survived, and they might not survive it at all. The Council fell silent. Even through the connection, even with billions of minds thinking together, there was silence. Harrison looked at Lisa. Lisa looked at Harrison. They both understood what was being asked. They both understood what it meant. The Queen lay in her chamber. She felt the pain. She felt the end coming. But she also felt something new. She felt hope. Small and distant and dangerous. But Hope Dot and Harrison began to think about who would be brave enough to take that hope and carry it forward. Who would volunteer to step into the darkness and try to save a Queen they had never met. He thought he might already know the answer. The message from Harrison arrived at the colonial station before he did. It was short. It was direct. And it caused chaos. Admiral Kevin Cross read the message 3 times. Each time, his jaw tightened more. The Verith Queen was dying. A human treatment might save her. But the treatment was experimental, dangerous. No human had ever attempted it. And it would require resources that the colony needed for other things. The Admiral called an emergency meeting. Military commanders filled the room. Politicians from the colonial government joined them. Scientists asked to attend. The room was full of people who all had different ideas about what Earth should do. Admiral Cross stood at the head of the table. His uniform was clean and pressed. His gray hair made him look serious and strong. He was the leader. He made the final decisions. Commander Harrison is asking us to risk a human life, the Admiral said. He is asking us to spend resources. He is asking us to trust the Verith. And for what? So we can save their Queen? So we can be nice to aliens who might turn around and attack us tomorrow? A younger officer, Lieutenant William Hayes, stood up. Sir, with respect, the Verith have never shown signs of aggression. In every contact, they have been peaceful. That we know of, Admiral Cross said. The Verith are a hive mind. They are unified. They can attack without warning. All of them at once. We would never see it coming. The argument went back and forth. Some officers agreed with the Admiral. Some agreed with the younger officer. The scientist stays mostly quiet, but they listen to everything. Finally, the Admiral made his decision. We will not authorize the treatment. We will not risk human lives for an alien. That is final. The message went back to Harrison. It was clear. No, do not proceed. Come back to the station. leave the Verith to their fate. But Harrison did not come back. Instead, he sent another message. He said he was staying. He said that he had something to show the Admiral. He said to wait before making any final decisions. The next day, a file arrived at the Colonial Station. It was a data file. Old data. Data about a research team that had gone out into deep space 3 years ago. The team was supposed to study cosmic radiation and stellar phenomena. They were supposed to be gone for 6 months. They were gone for 8 months before they came back. When they returned, the team said their ship had broken down far from any help. They said they had thought they would die out there. But something had saved them. A Verith vessel had found them. The Verith had given them food and water and medical supplies. The Verith had repaired their ship. The Verith had asked nothing in return. The team had returned to the colony and reported all of this. Then the data had been filed away, forgotten. But someone on that team had a sister. Her name was Sophie Chun. She was a pilot on the Colonial Station now. And she had kept detailed notes about what happened to her. Sophie was brought into a private meeting with Admiral Cross. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with steady eyes and a calm voice. She told the Admiral everything she remembered about her time lost in space. "They saved my life," Sophie said simply. "My brother was sick. We had no medicine. The Verith shared their resources with us. They treated us like we mattered, like we were worth saving." The Admiral listened. He wanted to dismiss it, but he could not. The fact was real. The Verith had helped. The Verith had asked for nothing in return. Sophie looked at the Admiral directly. "If you refuse to help their queen now, you are saying that human life is more valuable than Verith life. You are saying that they should have let my brother die. Is that what you want to say?" The Admiral did not answer. While this happened, back on the Verith ship, the preparation began. Dr. Lisa Park worked day and night. She needed to develop a protocol for the fusion. She needed to understand how to connect the human mind to the Verith consciousness. She needed to create something that had never been created before. She worked with Verith healers. They shared their knowledge with her. Slowly, she began to understand the Verith neural structure. It was like a vast web of connections. Each Verith mind was connected to every other mind. Information flowed between them constantly. The Queen was at the center of this web, the strongest connection point, the hub around which everything turned. If they could use a human mind to bridge the failing parts of the Queen's neural network, maybe the human's natural healing processes would repair the damage. Maybe the human's genetic defenses against disease would help the Queen survive. It was a theory. Nothing more. It might not work, but Lisa believed it could. Commander Harrison came to her as she worked in the medical chamber. He was tired. His uniform was wrinkled. He had not slept much in the past 2 days. "The Admiral will not authorize volunteers," he said. "I have to find someone willing to volunteer anyway. Someone brave. Someone who understands what they are choosing." Lisa looked up from her work. "Gabriel Matthews," she said. "The pilot. He's been asking about the procedure. He wants to know what it involves." Harrison nodded. He had already thought of Gabriel. The pilot was different from most military people. He thought about things. He cared about things beyond his orders. They found Gabriel in the pilot's quarters. He was looking at old flight logs. Flight logs from 3 years ago, when his sister Sophie had been lost in space. He was reading the Verith records of how they had found her, how they had helped her. When Harrison explained what needed to happen, Gabriel did not hesitate. He did not ask for time to think about it. He did not ask what the chances of survival were. "I will do it," Gabriel said. "My sister is alive because of them. If I can save their queen, I will." And so it was decided. A human would enter the fusion with an alien queen. A human would risk everything to save a stranger of a different species. A human would choose to give everything, knowing that he might get nothing back. The Vareth Council felt this decision through their connection to Harrison. They felt Gabriel's willingness. They felt his courage. And for the first time in their long history, the hive mind felt something new. They felt gratitude. They felt respect for an individual human being. The Queen felt it most of all. Through the connection, she felt Gabriel's decision. She felt his courage. And she understood that her people had finally encountered something they did not fully understand. Something that made them strong even when they were alone. Something that made them willing to die for a stranger. The Queen understood that humans were something remarkable, and she was going to meet one. The medical chamber was silent, except for the sound of machines. Gabriel sat in a chair that was not quite a chair. Electrodes attached to his head. Sensors pressed against his skin. Around him, equipment hummed with power. This equipment had never been used in this way before. It had never attempted what it was about to attempt now. Dr. Lisa Park checked everything one final time. Her hands moved with precision. She had trained for many years as a doctor. She had studied alien biology. She had treated wounded soldiers and dying civilians. But nothing in her training had prepared her for this moment. Neural pathways are stable, she said, speaking into the recording device. All human systems are functioning normally. Preparing for a fusion sequence. Gabriel's eyes were open but empty. He had been given medication to calm his mind, to make it easier for the connection to happen, to reduce the shock of what was coming. In another chamber, the Queen lay on her platform. Her body was failing. Her neural network was breaking apart. She would be dead in days, maybe less. But now there was a chance. A human chance. Something no Vareth had ever tried before. The Vareth healers attached their own equipment to her. Different equipment. Technology that was advanced beyond what humans could create. Technology that had taken thousands of years to develop. They prepared the Queen for the fusion as well. On the monitors in the chamber, Lisa could see both neural patterns. Gabriel's bright and organized and individual. The Queen's vast and interconnected and beginning to break apart. Two completely different forms of consciousness about to touch each other. Initiating fusion sequence in 10 seconds. Lisa said that the machines powered up. Energy flowed through the cables. Through the equipment. Through the neural interfaces. Gabriel's eyes went wide as the connection began. His back arched in the chair. His hands gripped the armrests, and then he felt it. It was like nothing any human had ever experienced. It was like suddenly becoming millions of things at once. Gabriel felt consciousness flowing into him. Not violent, not harsh, but total, complete, overwhelming. He felt the minds of the Vareth, billions of them, all connected. All thinking together, all connected to a center point. The Queen. And then he felt the Queen. Herself. Her consciousness was vast, ancient. She had lived for 300 years. She had memories that stretched back centuries. She had guided her people through 1,000 challenges. She had been the center of everything. And now she was dying. Gabriel felt her fear. Not the fear of death. The Vareth understood death differently than humans did. They accepted it as a natural part of the flow of consciousness. But she feared failing her people. She feared leaving them without a center. She feared the moment of transition when billions of minds would lose their anchor point. And then something unexpected happened. Gabriel pushed back. He was an individual. He was alone in his mind. He had no connection to billions of others. But in that moment, he used his isolation as strength. His individual consciousness was small compared to the Queen's vast awareness. But it was bright. It was determined. It was filled with a simple human drive to survive, to fight, to refuse to accept defeat. The human qualities flooded into the Queen's consciousness. They were not softness. They were not weakness. They were something the Vareth had never understood because they did not need to. They were the drive of an individual creature, alone in the universe, choosing to fight anyway. Gabriel's memories flowed into the Queen. His sister Sophie, lost in space, saved by the Vareth. His decision to volunteer, knowing the danger. His fear of what was about to happen. His choice to do it anyway. His love for people he had never met. His willingness to die. The Queen felt all of it. And something in her consciousness changed. She had spent 300 years as part of a hive mind, connected to billions, never truly alone. But through Gabriel's consciousness, she experienced what it meant to be alone, to be one mind in an infinite universe, to face darkness knowing that no other mind could help you, and to choose to fight anyway. Gabriel's body was burning. The pain was indescribable. His neural pathways were not designed for this. They were fragmenting, breaking apart. The human brain was being pushed far beyond what human brains could handle. But he held on. He could feel the Queen's neural network stabilizing. The damage was healing. The disease was being pushed back. His human genetics, so foreign to the Vareth, were somehow exactly what the Queen needed. His immune system worked differently. His cells healed differently. And those differences were saving her. But it was killing him. Lisa Park could see it in the monitors. Gabriel's neural patterns were deteriorating. His consciousness was breaking apart. His individual mind was fragmenting under the strain of being connected to billions. The fusion is damaging him, one of the Vareth healers said through the connection. His mind cannot sustain this connection. Lisa knew this was coming. She had warned Gabriel. He had understood. He had chosen to do it anyway. Gabriel felt himself breaking apart. But he did not stop. He understood what was happening. He understood that his individual consciousness was not built for this. But he also understood that he could do one final thing. He could use his breaking apart. He could use his end to give the Queen a final push toward life. Gabriel thought of Sophie. He thought of her face when she had told him about being saved by the Vareth. He thought of his decision to volunteer. He thought of all the reasons he was here. And he used those thoughts. He used them to guide the Queen's consciousness to full stability. He used his dying mind to complete the healing. And then, in a moment of clarity that was both beautiful and terrible, Gabriel chose to let go. His individual consciousness released. His mind was no longer alone. It began to merge with the vast awareness of the Vareth. Not as an intrusion, not as a violation, but as a joining, a choice, a final act of sacrifice. His neural patterns faded from the monitors. Dr. Lisa Park closed her eyes for a moment. Then she checked the Queen. The Queen's vital signs were strong. The damage to her neural network was repaired. The disease was defeated. She was healed. The Queen's eyes opened. For the first time in days, they were clear. She was conscious. She was aware. She was alive. And somewhere in her vast consciousness, woven into her neural pathways, was the memory of Gabriel Matthews. His courage, his sacrifice, his individual love for a being he had never met. The human who had given everything to save her was gone. But he was not truly dead. He was part of something larger now. He was part of the Queen, and through the Queen, he would be woven into the consciousness of the entire Vareth people. They would remember. They would understand. And they would never forget what it meant when a human chose to give everything for a stranger. Queen Sarthi opened her eyes and saw the medical chamber clearly for the first time in weeks. The pain was gone. Her consciousness, which had been fragmenting and breaking apart, was now whole. More than whole. It was stronger than it had been in years. The disease was gone, but something was different. Something inside her was not quite Verith. She felt it through the connection. Gabriel Matthews. His memory. His consciousness. His final choice. It was woven into her neural pathways now, not replacing any part of her, not invading her, but there, present. A memory that was not like any memory she had ever had. Most Verith memories came from the collective. They were experiences shared among billions. They were common knowledge. But this memory was individual. It was private. It was unique to her alone. The Queen understood that. Gabriel's consciousness had not merged with the collective Verith awareness. He had given everything to her alone. His final moments, his sacrifice, his individual choice to die for a stranger. These things belonged to her. These things were hers to carry. The Verith healers felt the change through the connection. They felt the Queen's consciousness. They felt Gabriel's presence. And they felt something that shocked them. Confusion. The hive mind did not know how to process this. The Queen was healed. That was good. That was the purpose. But she was also changed, and in a way that they did not fully understand. There was something in her neural structure that did not come from Verith genetics. Something that was purely, individually human. High Advisor Kesh came to the Queen's chamber in person. His body moved with less certainty than it normally did. The entire Verith people felt through the connection that their leader was troubled. "Your Majesty," Kesh said, using the ancient term of respect. "The collective feels that something must be done. There is contamination in your consciousness. Human elements. Elements that do not belong to our people. Many believe this must be purged. Your neural pathways must be cleansed." The Queen looked at Kesh directly. When she spoke, her voice was slow and careful. The voice of someone who was choosing individual words, rather than letting the hive consciousness do the speaking. "No," she said. Kesh felt the shock move through the connection. The Queen had never refused the will of the collective before. The Queen was the collective. Her will was their will. Her consciousness was their consciousness. But now, the Queen was choosing something different. "Gabriel Matthews is part of me now," the Queen said. "His consciousness, his sacrifice, his memory. These are part of my neural structure. If you purge them, you purge me. You delete the reason I am alive. You erase the truth of what happened." "But he was not Verith," Kesh said. "His consciousness does not belong among our people." "No," the Queen agreed. "Gabriel was not Verith. But he was something that we need to understand. He was an individual who chose to act based on something that our people do not fully possess. Compassion. The capacity to care for another being, not because it serves the collective, but because it is right." Gabriel understood this in his individual mind. And now, because of his sacrifice, I understand it too. The Queen sat up in her medical platform. Her body was weak still, but her consciousness was clear. Clearer than it had ever been. "I order that this individual presence within my consciousness is to be protected," the Queen said. "I order that all Verith consciousness will learn of Gabriel's choice. I order that we begin to understand why a human would give his life for us." Kesh felt the collective recoil from this. But the Queen's order was clear. As the center of Verith consciousness, her words carried absolute weight. The collective could not refuse her. They could not override her will. They could only accept what she had decided. And slowly, through the connection, all Verith consciousness began to understand what the Queen understood. They began to feel Gabriel's memory. They began to feel his individual courage. They began to understand what it meant that a human had given everything to save an alien queen. The news reached the colonial station at the same moment. Gabriel was dead. The fusion had killed him. But the Queen had survived. The treatment had worked. Commander Harrison stood in the station's command center when he received the message. He read the words once. Then he sat down in a nearby chair. His face did not show emotion, but his hand shook slightly. Admiral Cross stood nearby. He had authorized the mission to continue at the last moment, after Sophie told him what the Verath had done for her. Now he looked at Harrison with something that might have been respect, or might have been regret. He knew the risks, Harrison said quietly. He knew what he was choosing. I know, the Admiral replied. Dr. Lisa Park received the news in the medical chamber. She had monitored the entire fusion process. She had seen the moment when Gabriel's consciousness began to break apart. She had felt the moment when he chose to let go. And she had recorded all of it. She began to prepare a recording. Gabriel's own final message. He had made it before the procedure. A message for the people of Earth. A message for Sophie. A message for anyone who needed to know why he had made this choice. The message was played at the Colonial Station. Gabriel's face appeared on the screens throughout the station. His uniform was clean. His eyes were steady. He looked like any other pilot. Nothing special. Nothing remarkable. But his words were remarkable. If anyone is watching this, Gabriel said, it means the fusion worked. It means the Queen is alive. It means I made the right choice, even if it cost me everything. He paused. He took a breath. A lot of people ask me why I would do this. Why would I risk my life for an alien? Why would I help a creature that is so different from us? The answer is simple. Because I could. Because my sister lived because the Verath saved her. Because if I did not try, our people would never know what it means to do something, not because it serves us, but because it is right. Gabriel's eyes looked directly at the camera. Directly at Sophie. Directly at everyone who was watching. I am just one human, he said. But I hope that my choice means something to the Verath. I hope they understand that we do not just think about ourselves. We think about others. We feel connection across species. We are willing to give everything for a stranger. And maybe, if they understand that, we can build something real between our people. Not just peace, but real understanding. Real friendship. The message ended. The screen went dark. On the Verath ship, the Queen watched this message through the broadcast that Harrison sent. She watched a human man she had never met before speak about why he was willing to die for her. And the Queen understood something that would change the Verath people forever. The Verath had always believed that their consciousness was superior. That being connected to billions of minds made them stronger. But they had never encountered the strength that came from being alone. The strength that came from choosing to act without the support of a collective. The strength that came from love for a stranger. Gabriel Matthews was gone, but his sacrifice would echo through Verath consciousness forever. He would be remembered. He would be honored. He would be woven into the very structure of their people. The Queen placed her hand against the window of her chamber. Outside, the stars shone in the darkness. And somewhere among those stars, a human had given his life to save an alien queen. The Queen understood now that the universe was larger than any hive mind. That individuals could be strong. That sacrifice could change everything. That humans had taught the Verath what it meant to be truly alive. 1 year had passed since Gabriel Matthews gave his life to save Queen Sarathy. In that year, the galaxy changed. The Treaty of the Threshold was signed on a station that floated between human space and Verath space. It was the first true agreement between humanity and the hive mind. Not a trade agreement. Not a peace treaty that was simply the absence of war, but a real agreement between two species to share knowledge, to respect each other, and to work together. The humans got access to Verath medical technology. Diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries were cured in months. Cancer, heart disease, genetic disorders. The Vareth had been developing medical technology for 10,000 years. Now they shared it with humanity. In return, humans shared something that the Vareth could never develop on their own: individual philosophy, the art of making choices as a single consciousness, the beauty of personal sacrifice, the power of individual courage. On the station where the treaty was signed, a memorial was being built. It was a structure made of human materials and Vareth materials combined. It stood at the exact point where the two species had officially become allies. Dr. Lisa Park directed the work. She was older now, with gray in her hair, but her mind was as sharp as ever. She had been chosen to lead the research effort into human and Vareth consciousness. The government of Earth had named the research center after Gabriel Matthews, the Gabriel Matthews Center for Consciousness Studies. The center would study how individual minds worked, how hive minds worked, how the two could understand each other. Lisa had already begun training Vareth scientists alongside human scientists. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Vareth had learners, individuals studying individually rather than the collective learning together. On a quiet day, when the memorial was nearly finished, Sophie Chun came to visit the construction site. She had become a famous person. She was the sister of the man who had saved an alien queen. People wanted to interview her. People wanted to know what it was like to have a brother who was that brave. Sophie did not enjoy the attention. But she came to the memorial because she needed to be there. Because Gabriel was here. His memory was here. His sacrifice was here. She stood in front of the memorial stone. It was made of materials from both Earth and the Vareth homeworld. On one side, an inscription in English. On the other side, an inscription in the mathematical language of the Vareth. She read the human inscription first. Gabriel Matthews chose to give everything so that others might live. In his death, he taught us that true strength lies not in conquest, but in compassion. She traced her fingers over the letters. She remembered her brother. She remembered the day she had told him about being saved by the Vareth. She remembered when he had decided to volunteer for the fusion. She had tried to stop him. She had begged him not to go. But Gabriel had smiled and said something that she had never forgotten. Someone saved your life, Sophie. Now I have the chance to save theirs. How could I say no to that? Sophie turned to the Vareth inscription. It was complicated and mathematical, but Lisa Park had explained what it meant. She had provided a translation. He was alone, yet he changed all of us. He will be forever woven into our collective, the individual who made us understand what it means to choose to save another's life. Sophie closed her eyes. She felt the weight of the memorial. She felt the importance of what Gabriel had done. He had given his life, and in return, two species had learned how to understand each other. Two species had learned how to be allies. That was worth something. That was worth everything. A figure approached Sophie. It was High Advisor Kesh. He was still tall and impressive. But his eyes had changed. They had become less certain, more questioning, more individual. Miss Chun, Kesh said, using the human form of address that he had learned. I came to see the memorial. I wanted to stand where your brother stood, to understand what he understood. Sophie looked at the Vareth counselor. Did you? She asked. Did you understand? No, Kesh admitted. The Vareth collective does not understand individual sacrifice fully. We may never understand it the way humans do. But we are learning. The Queen is teaching us. She carries Gabriel's consciousness in her mind. Every time the Queen thinks about choice, about sacrifice, about individual love, the entire Vareth people feels it through the connection. We are all learning what your brother tried to teach us. Sophie nodded slowly. I think Gabriel would like that, she said. He would like knowing that he changed your people. Cash was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that was unusual for the Varith. He said something that came from individual thought, not from collective consciousness. Your brother was the bravest being I have ever known. The entire Varith people honors him. We will carry his memory forever. And every time a young Varith learns about individual choice, they will learn about Gabriel Matthews. They will learn that there are creatures in the universe who are willing to give everything for a stranger. And they will understand that this makes humans remarkable. Sophie felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she said. Kesh turned to leave, then paused. "The Queen wishes to meet you," he said. "She has asked many times. She would very much like to thank you for your brother's sacrifice." Sophie nodded. She would go meet the Queen. She would see the being that her brother had died to save. She would see the face of the one who carried Gabriel's final memory. Across the station, in the research center, Lisa was working on something new. She was mapping the Queen's consciousness. She was creating a detailed record of how Gabriel's human qualities had become part of Varith's neural structure. She was documenting exactly what had happened during the fusion. This data would teach scientists for centuries. It would explain how two completely different forms of consciousness could meet and change each other. It would show that understanding between species was not impossible. It just required sacrifice. It just required someone willing to give everything to bridge the gap. Lisa had found Gabriel's personal logs in his quarters. She had read through them. She had found his thoughts about his sister, his thoughts about the Varith, his thoughts about the choice he had made. In the final log, made just before the fusion, Gabriel had written something that Lisa had never forgotten. She had it written on a plaque in the research center. "I am not brave," Gabriel had written. "I am just a human. I make mistakes. I get scared. I doubt myself. But right now, I have the chance to do something that matters. I have the chance to show another species that humans are more than just individuals. We are people who care about each other. We are people who can choose to give everything for a stranger. And if my life has to end so that someone else can live, then I guess that is what being human means." Lisa read those words every day. They reminded her why she did this work, why she studied consciousness, why she tried to understand how minds could connect across the vast differences between species. The galaxy was changing. New species were approaching the Varith and the humans. They had heard the story of what had happened. They had heard about the human who had given his life to save an alien queen. They wanted to understand. They wanted to know what made humans special. And across the galaxy, whispers began that would echo for generations. They said that humans were not the strongest warriors among the stars. They said that humans did not possess the most advanced technology. They said that humans were not the most logical or the most powerful. But they said that humans were the ones who would sacrifice themselves for strangers. They said that humans were the ones who would feel such profound compassion for the other that they would choose death rather than see another suffer. They said that maybe this was the most powerful force in the universe, and it had all begun with one human named Gabriel Matthews. One pilot who remembered his sister. One man who understood that compassion across species was possible. One individual who had the courage to give everything. The memorial stood at the center of the station, gleaming in the light of the distant sun. It would stand there for thousands of years. It would remind everyone who saw it that sacrifice matters. That individuals matter. That one human's choice could change the entire galaxy. Gabriel Matthews was gone, but he was never truly forgotten. He was woven into the consciousness of an entire alien species. He had taught them something they could never have learned alone. He had shown them what it meant to choose to save another's life, when there was nothing in it for yourself. And that was his legacy. That was his gift to the universe. One human, one choice, One moment of pure, undeniable, sacrificial love. It had changed everything.